Well, hello, everybody. Peter Greenberg here with you as Ion Travel. No, Global Travel Update continues this week on this Thursday from the Fontainebleau Hotel, the new Fontainebleau Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. You know how to reach me, of course. I'll be glad to answer all your questions and read your comments. So much stuff to talk about. First of all, let me talk about this hotel. For those of you who've been visiting Las Vegas for the last couple of years, you know that this is a building that was sitting for about 13 years. No one was in it. It was vacant. It was idle. It was basically abandoned. And somebody finally put together the team to put it together. And ironically, it turned out to be Mr. Sofer, who also owns the Fontainebleau in Miami. And they really put it together. 3,000 rooms, 36 separate restaurants, amazing restaurants, by the way. And it just opened at the end of last year. So it's only about 3 months old. And it's no longer an eyesore on the Strip. It's turning into an icon on the Strip. And happy to be here and talking to you today. A whole lot better than standing alone in the terminal in Lima, Peru last week on American Airlines Flight 918. We all talked about that. By the way, for all those people who remember that story, we're still waiting to hear from American Airlines. I checked with all the people that I traveled with on that flight, and not a single person got any communication whatsoever from American. My point well taken last week, and sadly, well taken this week. Lots of stuff to talk about, so let's get to it. The U.S. Department of Transportation just announced they were putting about 10 airlines on notice that they're very concerned about the custody of your information, the chain of custody, and what they're doing with the information they have about you. Think about this. Every time you make an airline reservation, what are you giving up? Well, other than your name and your date of birth, your credit card information, your seat preference, your food preference, assuming they're serving food, how interested you are in going to a place based on how many times you've already been there, who you're traveling with. That may also tell them basically whether it's a pleasure trip or whether or not who's determining who you're going with and why, and how much you're willing to spend. We're just getting started in terms of all the information that's collected about you when you make that reservation, whether you buy the travel insurance or not, and how much you're spending versus what you spent a year ago. And that may help them to determine what you want to spend the next time you travel. They're very concerned at the U.S. Department of Transportation, as is Congress, as to where that information is stored, whether or not it's shared, and worse, whether or not it's sold. And of course, put into the wrong hands, it may lead to fraudulent behavior with your credit card. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, this has been going on for a while now in terms of big data and what they do with your data. A couple of years ago, I wanted to go to Rochester, New York. I made a mistake and put in the original reservation Rochester, Minnesota. I did change it, but I was inundated with offers for Rochester, Minnesota at that point from people I'd never heard of who suddenly knew I was interested in going and were offering me deals and prices based on what that airfare was. And if I was willing to pay that airfare, maybe I'd be willing to pay that hotel rate. Is that really what we had in mind? Is that what we counted on? Is that what we're banking on? No, they're banking on it. So a number of senators are considering legislation. The U.S. DOT is now going to do an audit of what the airlines are doing with your information, and they should. One of the things you should note, and just happened to me, you need to check your credit card statement maybe once a week to check for fraudulent purchases on it based on information that other people might have that was shared with them when you made an airline reservation. I'm not kidding. I got hacked. All of a sudden, I was getting credit card purchases, and here's how they do it. They start with a little purchase, like at a convenience store for like $3 to see if the card will go through or the account will be valid. And then they go ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. So it started with a convenience store purchase in the state of Washington. Next thing you know, it's automobile repair stores, gas stations, restaurants, beauty salons. Obviously, I could dispute the charges, but you know what? It made a whole lot of problems for me because, of course, I had to get a new card and change all my other accounts. But it all started, I'm convinced, when I made a reservation, somebody had, because employees have access to your information as well. And that information does get sold. So let's see what happens with this US DOT audit. We will stay on top of that. Also this week, we didn't get a chance to report it last week because it happened at the end of last week. The CEO of United Airlines, Scott Kirby, sent a letter. Many of you may receive that letter to their customers saying, look, we're aware of all these incidents. We're refocusing our efforts on our maintenance and also on our pilot training. In fact, they're going to do one additional day of pilot training for their pilots. I'm sure other airlines will follow suit. But let's get straight here in terms of context and perspective. It's the optics. So many people are conflating those incidents with the ongoing investigation at Boeing and the FAA, and they shouldn't. Because the issues that we saw with United Airlines, those 6 different incidents, were basically about oversight and maintenance on the airline's part, nothing to do with Boeing. Okay, we'll get to Boeing in a second. But now let me put it in additional perspective. Now, today is March 21st, and we're almost at the end of the month. By the end of this month, United Airlines will have about 131,000 departures, and we're talking about 6 incidents, none of which were life-threatening. You know, if a plane is leaking hydraulic fluid, it is no big deal. My car, I think, leaks hydraulic fluid. And let me put something else in perspective. If we were to go to any major U.S. airport, and I go up in the tower, some of you know that I'm also a fireman, and of course they're linked in the tower to the airport fire department, and we see how often the airport fire department is called out in a given day at most airports, it might surprise you. It's about 40 times a day. Now, what are they being called out for? Well, 30 of those 40 times are medical calls. You'll find that in any department in most cities, right? Somebody's either sick or injured on a plane or on the ground at the airport, and they respond to that with their EMTs. What about the other 10 calls? And that's the interesting part. That may be the leaking hydraulic fluid. That may be a warning light that goes on the cockpit that the landing gear has not been properly locked. It turns out to be a faulty warning light, but the fire department responds nonetheless. Those incidents have been going on every day since Wilbur and Orville. So that's not really the issue here. The issue here is to increase the oversight at the maintenance level at the airlines, and they're doing that. But now we have to go to the bigger issue, and that's Boeing and the safety culture and the FAA. I've been talking about this for quite some time. I'm not going to belabor the point, even though it needs it. And that is that investigation is continuing. There's a criminal probe that's been opened now by the U.S. Department of Justice about Boeing's behavior. But there's something going on now that is going to affect you, other than your safety, which you should be definitely concerned about, and writing your elected representatives to make sure that the FAA is doing the job it should have always been doing since it became an entity back in 1935. But there's another issue as it relates to you. The Boeing assembly lines have slowed to a crawl and in some cases stopped, and that means they're unable to deliver planes that were on order by many airlines. As a result, United Airlines has stopped pilot training of new pilots. Why? They have no planes to put them in. Southwest Airlines is now adjusting their schedule for the summer because they don't have the flights to support the schedule they thought they were going to publish. You know what that means? If you thought the flights were full last summer, they're going to even be more full if that's possible. This summer, that translates to what? Possible higher fares. So, you can't move one chess piece without moving a lot of them. These are the chess pieces that are being moved. You need to know about them and anticipate them. But again, it all goes back to the problem and the source, the safety culture at Boeing, which was not properly regulated and enforced by guess who? The FAA. Boeing failed more than 30 safety audits in the last month by the FAA. And the FAA reacted with shock. How could this be? Well, again, that's the Claude Rains character in Casablanca, shocked to finding out that gambling's going on in Rick's Casino and collecting his winnings from the night before. That is not what we're talking about here. The FAA should know exactly what's going on because they let it happen, and they knew about it all along. So for the FAA to give Boeing 90 days to come up with a plan to fix it is still not the point. The FAA is giving Boeing an idea to come up with a plan? No. The FAA needs to come up with a plan and then enforce it. What are they missing here? So we'll be obviously on top of that. And by the way, towards that end, please listen in on our radio show, Eye on Travel, this Saturday. It's coming from Washington, D.C. Who's on the show? I interview at length a 30-year veteran American Airlines Boeing 737 pilot, flies the MAX, Dennis Tager. He has some interesting things to say that may enlighten you beyond anything I may have said. So be sure to listen to the show. If you can't find it in your market, not a problem. Just go to our website, petergreenberg.com. You can hit the icon for radio, and we stream it live starting at about 10:05 a.m. Eastern time this Saturday. I'll give you a reminder a little bit about that later in the show. Okay, some fun stuff to talk about today. Uh, I'm obsessed with three-letter airport codes, always have been. Some of them are misleading, some of them are just downright fun. So, what do you think the three-letter code for Madison, Wisconsin is? No, it's not MAD, not MAD. It should be. Nope, that's Madrid. Madison is MSN. How about for Fukuoka in Japan? It's a three-letter code, but I'm not going to say it. You can figure that one out. How about Perm in Russia? PERM. You ready? PEE. Yeah. My favorite two, Fresno, California. FAT. Fat. And the one that they're turning into a marketing opportunity, that's right, in Sioux City, Iowa. Here it comes, the three-letter code, SUX. It sucks. They're marketing the whole airport that way. And you know what? I love that they have a sense of humor about that. All right, one other item in the news. Everybody was jumping on the electric vehicle bandwagon. I mean, everybody, right? Including the CEO of Hertz. He's been on our show before, Stephen Scher. And he went out and made a bold offer, right? He basically bought 100,000 Teslas to add to the Hertz fleet. One small problem. Not everybody wanted to jump on the EV bandwagon as renters because they were worried about charging stations and the range of these cars. And then the repair bills started coming in higher than normal. And when Hertz tried to say, you know what, there's not a lot of demand, we want to sell 20,000 of the cars, Tesla dropped the price. So the resale value of the cars dropped. It was a total mess. And the CEO of Hertz is stepping down in about 9 days, which means if you're looking for a reasonably priced electric vehicle, Hertz has a deal for you. We'll see what happens. Again, we know EVs are coming. We know it's the future. But until we come up with a truly robust system of charging stations around the country that don't take 8 hours overnight in your garage, people are going to be reluctant to drive them, especially rent them on long trips. Nobody wants to be stuck out on the highway looking for a long extension cord. So we'll stay on top of that story as well. Let's go say hello to a couple of people here. I'm going to scroll up here. All right, Jim and Harriet saying hello from in Dhaka in Bangladesh. No longer Virginia today. Wow, I want reports from you guys on that. Hello from Lima, Ohio, the best place for the eclipse. Let's talk about that. April 8th, it's coming. A couple of airlines are having flights there. They're already sold out, Delta being one of them. They're expecting 1 million people to travel for the eclipse, and everybody's booking space for that small window of about an hour and 20 minutes where they can see it all across the United States, places like in Ohio, Indiana. They're tracking where it's going. If you want to check out our website next week, we're going to have a list of all those places where you can watch it the best. But right now, it's priced accordingly, so be careful. There's price gouging for the eclipse. All right, Melanie saying, greetings from Miami as usual. I work in aviation. I look forward to your weekly report. Learned so much from you over the past 5 years. Thank you. Well, thank you, Melanie. Robin saying hello from Williamsburg, Virginia. And Priya is now watching from Chicago. Camilla saying, cheers from the moon. Nah, just kidding. Tucson. We understand. All right. Patrick's up. He's flying 38,000 feet over California. Where are you, Patrick? And where are you going? Okay. Someone saying hi from Santa Monica. Gail saying hello from cold Pennsylvania. Hard to believe it's spring. It was 28 degrees this morning. Hey, Gail, let's be honest. We didn't have a winter in New York. I think it snowed 1/4 of an inch in the city. The bay didn't freeze. How about Madison, Wisconsin? They had one of the mildest winters they've ever had. I'm a little worried. When we have these mild winters, it only means one thing. We're cross-country skiing up Madison Avenue in April. I'm not saying winter's over yet, but it's been a very mild winter. Here's Debbie saying hi from Buffalo, New York. Eclipse got travel crazy here. Yeah, I'm sure. Hello from Bellingham, Washington to Sue. Michael saying, okay, so how do we fight back for those resort fees? The first time I got charged an extra unsolicited $25 per person was at the Palmer House last year. The Palmer House in Chicago, a resort fee? What are they giving you? A view of the lake from a mile away? Look, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Michael, pay attention. You need to figure out what's going on when you make your reservation. Not everybody's fully disclosing this. or some hotels are actually calling it something else, right? A hospitality fee, a destination fee, whatever they're calling it, it's garbage. It's a tax dodge. So this needs to be negotiated ahead of time. I'm here in Las Vegas, where a lot of hotels put it in their website. It's a mandatory resort fee. No, it's not. It's negotiable. Listen, hotels do not make money when you stay once. They make money when you stay more than once and tell all your friends. And why would you want to stay more than once in a hotel that's either nickel or diming you or not fully disclosing a fee that you never should be paying in the first place? So bottom line, ask about it, negotiated it, not with the reservations agent, but with the manager on duty or the director of sales. They have the ability to waive that. Look, I was checking into a hotel in San Juan not too long ago. I'll name the hotel, the Sheraton. And as I got my room key, they gave me a free drink coupon. Free? I smelled the rat. What's this for? Oh, it's part of our hospitality package. Really? And what does the hospitality package cost? $40 a night. I was staying for 5 nights. I didn't budget on $200. And for what? A free drink? I said, what else is included in this? And she smiled excitedly and said, a free yoga lesson. Really? I said, let me tell you what's going to happen during my free yoga lesson. While I'm doing downward dog, I'll be contemplating, what the hell am I paying you $40 a day for? Take it off my bill right now. Now, she didn't know what I did for a living. It was taken off immediately. That's the point I'm making. You need to fight back. And get ready for this, because there'll be legislation soon, more class action suits or suits filed by individual state attorneys general because of failure to disclose, lack of transparency, and all sorts of other insidious charges to get rid of this. Now, it may be reflected in a higher room rate that you may have to pay. I get that. I don't deny the hotels an opportunity to make a profit. What I do get angry at is failure to disclose and playing insidious games like the resort fee. Okay? Colleen is saying, happy National French Bread Day. If I'd only known, I would have brought a croissant for everybody. Who knew? And by the way, the croissants aren't French. Did you know that? Who invented the croissant? Anybody want to guess? The Turkish. Because when the Turkish came back from a battle, their bakers decided to celebrate their victory by making rolls in the shape of the Turkish crescent, hence croissant. And now you know. Now, the French improved on it, otherwise known as butter, but the croissant was not a French invention. It was Turkish. Okay, Robin says, any thoughts on the email from Scott Kirby, the CEO of United? Anyone else get this? Yes, I just talked about that, Robin, at the top of the show. Look, it's the optics. He wants to reassure everybody. I don't blame him. By the way, I fly on United all the time. I'll be flying on a plane later today. I fly more than most people you know. Am I concerned about what's going on? You bet. Am I panicked? I am not. Listen to my interview on Saturday with Dennis Tager from American Airlines, the Boeing 737 pilot, and listen to what he has to say. Concern versus panic versus fixing problems. I think you'll find it enlightening. Michael says, if we take the Eurostar from Paris to London, when we arrive, how bad is customs for a U.S. person these days? It used to be quick and easy. It's still quick and easy. Not a problem. Okay? Easy. The minute you get off the train, you just go right through. There's a UK customs officer there. You basically show your passport. I haven't seen them stop anybody in a long, long time. And the beautiful thing about the United Kingdom these days, 3 cheers where they're necessary and needed, they've gone to e-gates at Heathrow and at Gatwick. No longer 3-hour lines at immigration and passport control at either airport. If you've got a U.S. passport, you go right to the e-gate. It reads your eyes. Boom, you're gone. I love that system. All right. Listen to this. This is from, I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Suing says, I have all my credit cards set up to send a text to my phone after every purchase. You know what? I want to get that. I want to set that up because that would have stopped the problem that just happened to me on my credit card. Thank you for sharing that. Our good friend John Lample, hi from Miami, off to another Oceania cruise. For those of you who don't know John Lample used to work at British Airways. He headed all their public relations and press in New York. Amazing guy. It was always very, very helpful to me. Turned into a very good friend with his wife, Maria. But John has figured out how to run the next chapter of his life. He just goes from cruise to cruise to cruise. I'm so jealous. Listen to what he's doing. He's off on an Oceania cruise next Monday on a repositioning trip. My favorite kind of cruise ever, right? Across the Atlantic to the Caribbean, to the Canaries, Morocco, Portugal, Spain, Southampton. Wow. You know what? Good for you, John. All right. I want your life. I want to be you when I grow up. Gail saying, what are your thoughts on the unticketed passenger? Oh, yeah, that sneaked on a Delta flight. They said he took pics of passengers' boarding passes in the terminal and boarded a plane and hid in the bathroom. Well, let's talk about barcodes here, right? Everybody that's going to board a flight these days, you scan your ticket, right, face down on the reader, and it gives you it basically confirms you're on the flight and off you go. So what this man apparently did is he scanned somebody's boarding pass when they weren't looking and boarded before they did and got on the plane. But wait a second, it still makes no sense because what happened when they boarded the plane? It would have shown up as a dupe, and it didn't. They only discovered him hiding in the bathroom when he came out. And of course, his seat, which wasn't his seat, was already taken. He was promptly arrested. I guarantee you the folks at Delta have got some splaining to do. We are going to stay on top of that story for you because we do not know the answer, Gail, because it's almost impossible to figure that out since everybody boarded the plane, including him. It wasn't that they had extra seats and he was able to sneak on using somebody's boarding pass who didn't board the plane. They did board the plane. So something's wrong. We're going to figure it out. All right, let's keep going here. Good morning, Peter from Phoenix to James. Randy saying hello from Ann Arbor. Okay, go Michigan. I shouldn't say that. I'm a Badger. Of course, it's coming to the Final Four. It's coming up, March Madness. Tomorrow night, my Badgers are playing. They're playing tomorrow night on CBS. It doesn't mean they're going to get to the Final Four because if they win tomorrow against James Madison, which, by the way, led their division, if they win against James Madison, you know who they play next? Duke. Can we say bye-bye? But anyway, I'll be watching tomorrow night. All right, Red saying watching from Omaha. Easiest IATA code to guess, Omaha. Exactly. Now, listen to this. The CEO of Hertz should listen to this. Suing says, I rented a Tesla from Hertz last week. It was a great experience. I charged nightly in my rental house in the Villages. Okay. And used one of the plentiful Tesla superchargers on the way back to the airport. Okay, that's a good experience, but at least you had the access to the chargers. Okay, Chris is saying hello from Seattle. It's been beautiful. We love Seattle. We love Vashon Island, by the way. Randy's saying, I know there's not a tipping culture in England, but should we tip black cab tour guides in London? Yes. And there is a tipping culture in England. There's no tipping culture, at least there didn't used to be in places like Australia or Japan, but they've been taught otherwise in the last couple of years. But in England, the answer is yes. Okay, David says, hotel bathtubs are a relic of history. If so, why? Will hotels start to offer a choice of shower, bath versus just shower? I'm with you. You know, if you check into most hotels these days, even if they do have a bathtub, the bathtub itself is ornamental, right? You might be able to bathe your dog in there, not you. And then, of course, most hotels are getting rid of them. However, here at the Fontainebleau, they've got great bathtubs and deep bathtubs, really deep bath soaking tubs. We love that. You know, in international gateway cities, hotels should have bathtubs. People are coming off long flights. They need to relax. Get in the tub. One of my best cures ever for avoiding jet lag, right? Hot bath. Okay. Priya wants to know any hidden gems, places to visit in and around London. You bet. But we don't have time to talk about it on this show. If you want to email me, peter@petergreenberg.com, I'll give you some advice, okay? Sue wants to know, is global entry a good deal? No, it's not a good deal. It's a great deal. It's the best invention the government's given us in a long, long time. It works like a charm. Who wants to be on a flight for 11 hours to only wait in U.S. customs lines for 2 hours? No. Global entry now is even faster than it's ever been. For those of you who've been a member for a while, you know what I'm talking about. In the old days, you used to have to get your fingerprints scanned, insert your passport, answer lots of questions. Those days are over. Now you just look in the camera, it reads your eyes, it says, go see agent. It takes 20 seconds. And when we get there, the agent goes, Peter? Great, how do you know? He knows. Goodbye, you're done. I love it. I know it's tough sometimes to get the interview to get global entry, but now the customs folks have made it easier to do it when you arrive at airports. You can do a lot of walk-ins. So the answer is yes, do it. And Red says London City also uses e-gates now. I love it. Yep, lots of stuff to love. And London City Airport, by the way, if you're looking for a little hidden gem for you, is the great hidden gem of London. We love that airport to get anywhere around Europe. They used to have the best flight ever, which was BA Flight 1, which actually was an especially equipped Airbus 318. You've heard of Airbus 319s and 20s. You've never heard of an Airbus 318. It was built just for this route because the runways at London City are not that long. You'd take off from London City Airport. You'd stop in Shannon or Dublin. I think it was Shannon. You clear U.S. Customs there while the plane is refueling, and then you fly to New York. When you get to New York, you just get off the plane, make your connecting flight, or go home. No customs. They got rid of it during the pandemic. I'm really sorry they did. We loved that flight because it also talked about something which is one of my favorite topics, pre-clearance. For those of you who know what pre-clearance is, not pre-check, pre-clearance. It's been around since 1952, and you can still use it in Canada, the Bahamas, Bermuda, Abu Dhabi, and a few other locations where you actually clear U.S. Customs and Immigration at your departing airport in that country so that when you get back to the U.S., you're home. It's cool. You're not spending another 2 hours in line. It's great. Okay. All right. Jeff is saying, just returned from Amsterdam from a Rhine River trip. Global entry is so easy. There you go. It said the regular line was at least an hour. Thank you, Jeff, and I rest my case. Melanie says, when I come back from England at Christmas back to Miami, I use the mobile passport control app, and it really helps speed up the reentry process. You know what? If you want to use the mobile app, fine. Get global entry. That's what you need, honestly. And by the way, if you do it right, you get TSA pre-check with it as well. It's a twofer. All right. Now let's go to the photo of the week. And Joy wins this one. You know where this was taken. By the way, all the cherry blossoms came out 2 weeks earlier. They're there now. And Joy took this picture and writes, I wanted to submit my photo of Washington, D.C. cherry blossoms around the Jefferson Memorial. As the trees are nearly at peak bloom, the light pink flowers are a breathtaking sight to see. You're writing it like a brochure, Joy. Also, the U.S. National Park Service announced that about 150 of Washington, D.C.'s famous cherry trees will be removed this spring after the festival in order to repair a crumbling seawall. That means that this year will be the last time to see this many trees in all their glory. Yes, that's a shame. But the good news is you can never tell when the cherry blossoms are coming, but they're there as of today. A little earlier than normal. That speaks to global warming, by the way, and what a mild winter we had. Joy, thank you for that photo. And if you think your photo qualifies as the photo of the week, just send it to photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we agree with you, it goes right up there next to Joy. All right, let's go to some of your questions that you sent in. Lois says, are there any annual travel insurance plans? And the answer is, depending on the kind of insurance. If you're buying trip cancellation and interruption insurance, one or two companies might have that, but it doesn't really work because it's based on the value of the individual trip you're booking, right? Again, don't book it online, book it through a travel agent or a travel advisor. But then what you're really talking about is something else. CFAR. That's an expensive policy. It stands for cancel for any reason, right? And it's going to cost you a lot more for the premium. You're only going to get back between 50 and 75% of your investment if you just want to say, just because I don't want to go. But the other annual policy that you can get is something called medical evacuation and repatriation insurance. I heartily endorse that. I have one myself. They also sell family plans. If you get sick or injured anywhere overseas, they'll pay to get you medically stabilized where you are. And the good policies will then consult your own personal physician, after all, who knows your records better than your own doctor. And then in consultation with that doctor, they will then, if necessary, fly you to the medical facility and doctor of your choice. Again, buy it through a travel advisor or a travel agent because every policy language is different. I just gave you the policy language of the best policies. But remember, there's still exclusions in every policy. You need to see if you either qualify for it or it's not a good idea for you. Okay? That's where you get the annual plan. Okay, Janine wants to know, I'd like to take a week-long beach trip in mid-April or early May, which has safer weather, Curacao, Costa Rica, St. Martin, or Belize. Well, April is always sort of a gray area, every pun intended. But you know what? For my money, if you want great weather, Belize. That's a guarantee. Okay. Tim says, which airline do you think is the safest right now? There's no answer for that. Remember, there's an important quote. The absence of an accident should never presume the presence of safety. Right now, I have to presume that the major U.S. airlines and the minor U.S. airlines are doing the best possible job they can in terms of maintenance and pilot training. Remember, we've just celebrated the 30 safest years of commercial aviation since aviation began. Hard to believe, going back to 2001, that's 23 years ago, we've only had 3 fatal accidents, right? There was the American Airlines flight November 1st, 2001, on its way to the Dominican Republic that crashed in Jamaica Bay. There was Colgan Air up near Buffalo, New York in February of 2009. And there was a Comair flight near Lexington, Kentucky as well. Okay, that's it. Unless you want to add the one Southwest Airlines flight where the window blew out and the woman passenger died in flight. Okay, we're done. Now, how many planes are in the sky right now as I'm speaking? 40,000 around the world, right? Nothing happened today. Nothing happened yesterday. Oh, yeah, somebody leaked hydraulic fluid. BFD. The cool thing is the odds are overwhelmingly in your favor. But here's the issue. I don't want to sugarcoat this. Can we improve on our batting average of airline safety? Probably not, because it's so good. The challenge is, can we maintain it? And that is truly the challenge. That's why we're investigating the Boeing safety culture. That's why the DOJ has reopened a criminal probe. And that's why the FAA needs to be called to task to do the job they've always should have been doing since day one. Okay? All right, here's one from Elaine. Says, my pilot said our flight was delayed because the plane had too much fuel. What does this actually mean? Easy answer. It's about weight, right? Every plane needs to carry enough fuel as a reserve to be able to basically circle around for a while and still have enough fuel to get to their alternate airport if they can't land at their primary airport. In this case, they had that fuel, but maybe too much fuel in terms of the weight of the passengers on board, and you became weight restricted. So they had a choice at that point of either removing passengers or removing fuel. They had to lighten the load. That's why your plane was delayed. It's all about fuel planning, and most airlines do an excellent job of that, but every once in a while, the algorithms don't make sense, and that's what happened on your flight. And they did the right thing on the ground. They lessened the load. Okay. Lily, has Southwest implemented its new seats? Well, not yet, but they're about to. Has anybody seen the new Southwest seats? They've been described as lawn chairs. Again, it's about weight. It's no different than the fuel. Airlines are doing everything they can to lighten the load. They're coming up with seats that recline forward, not backward. They're not very cushy or comfy. And in some cases, the recline is, you see my video in the past. That was it. Did you see it? Did you catch it? That was it. Bottom line is, a lot of airlines are doing that. The good news about the Southwest flights, for more often than not, except maybe their Hawaii flights, they're not long haul flights, but that's what they're doing. Okay, now let's go back and see if there's any more questions before I give you some more housekeeping notes. Let's go down here. Hold on. Okay. Okay, Kristen wants to know, is there a trend that people are utilizing travel agents again more than booking the travel themselves? It's not just a trend, it's been happening since the pandemic. 3 cheers out to travel agents who really proved their worth during the pandemic, acting as your advocates for no commission or income whatsoever, just to try to fight to get you your refunds and your money back. The travel agents are now back bigger than ever. They've specialized. I use about 7 different travel agents for 7 different reasons, right? For cruises, for bicycle travel, for business travel, you name it. You don't go see a podiatrist if your arm hurts you. Same thing applies to travel agents. It's okay to have a travel agent for a particular affinity because they have preferred supplier relationships in that particular area and can really help you out a lot. I'm a big fan, and the answer is, yeah, people are using them more, especially when things get complicated, right? A complicated itinerary, travel insurance, renting a car, things that we used to do. It's not just about ticking off a box. Have a conversation. You'll be glad you did. Randy says there's pre-clearance in Aruba also. Only issue is that you have to go through security twice in a row, once for Aruba and then for the USA. Well, you know what? Did you endure that? Was it really tough for you, Randy? Aren't you glad you did it there, though? I am. Okay. All right. Oh, my goodness. We have folks from Tanzania checking in. I'm glad you're still watching the Royal Tour. I'm sitting over here. Okay. And there we have it. Now, some housekeeping notes. Of course, we've got things posting on our website that you need to know about. First and foremost, this weekend, I will be in Dallas, Texas, speaking at the Travel and Adventure Show over at Market Center or Market Hall. There's a little poster there to let you know about it. There's a little VIP code there that'll get you discounted tickets. I hope you'll come and chance to see me. I'm glad to talk to everybody who stops by. That'll be Saturday and Sunday, the 23rd and 24th. Also, of course, our Eye on Travel radio show this weekend, featuring my conversations with that Boeing 737 pilot, Dennis Tager, about what's really going on from the pilot's perspective in the Boeing 737 investigation. I hope you get a chance to check that out. Also, one more note. I say this because it's becoming a problem for so many people. When you travel with medication, here's what you need to do before you ever leave home. And I'm talking about overseas travel. Get your doctor to write you a note explaining what medication you're on in both its brand name and its generic name. That's very important, and why you're taking it. And if they have any questions, to call him or her. And do not mix your medications in one bottle. Keep them separate so that they can be identified. And remember, the key thing here is make sure when you get that letter, it mentions the generic name of the drug, which will then be recognized by anybody overseas. That'll be very helpful, not just in case you have a problem with Customs and Immigration, but if you need a refill. And that's one thing there. One piece of good news: involuntary passenger bumping, those numbers are going down. The airlines have figured out better algorithms on their flight planning. Southwest Airlines is hardly doing it at all now. JetBlue is hardly doing it at all now, which means that planes are getting out a little bit more on time and nobody's being left on the ground. Now, if you are in a situation where they're asking for volunteers to give up their seats in return for a voucher, take it from me. I mean, the airlines hate it when I say this, but don't stand up right away. Because if nobody takes them up on their first offer, it becomes an auction and the bidding goes up and the numbers go up. I was on a flight where they offered a $500 voucher. I said, nope, I got to be somewhere. I'm not going to take that. I'm staying in my seat. Then I went up to $1,500. I said, nope, still got to go somewhere. I can't miss this flight. When it got to $5,000, I said, screw my meeting. I'm getting up. At that point, I got trampled by all the other passengers. But you get the point. Gate agents now on certain airlines, Delta being one of them, have been authorized by their management. They can go up as high as $10,000 to get people to give up their seats if they have to. Remember the issue of Dr. David Dow with United a couple of years ago when they dragged this guy screaming and kicking out the plane and beat him up? Well, his settlement was in the 7 figures against the airline. They learned their lesson on that one about when they can bump you, how they can bump you, and what they owe you. So just so you know about that. Again, Eye on Travel this weekend, starting at 10:05 in the morning Eastern Time. That's our 3-hour CBS National Radio Show. If you can't get it on your radio markets, you go right to our website. You'll get it online, petergreenberg.com. Also, if you want, and you should, sign up for our newsletter. That's the website, petergreenberg.com. It's free. I promise you it is not transactional in any way. It's only informational. We update it every week. I hope you'll join. And of course, continue the conversation with me on that, as well as we do every week here on the Global Travel Update. I'm off to the airport now, heading to Dallas, but I'll see you next week from a different location somewhere around the world, and it will not be the United States as long as the airline gets me there. Everybody be safe. Have a great rest of the weekend, great rest of the week. I'll see you next week.